This is my true story. My son threw my wedding ring in the trash while I was upstairs. 32 years I wore that ring. I buried my wife 3 years ago and never took it off. When I came down, he was leaning against the counter eating chips like nothing happened. I asked where my ring was. He pointed at the trash and told me to grow up, old man. Said my dead wife would be embarrassed watching me cry over metal. His girlfriend sat on my couch scrolling her phone, bored. I pulled that ring out of garbage and banana peels while they both watched. That night I did something that shocked everyone. Before I explain, tell me where you're from and please subscribe my channel. That ring wasn't just metal. It was the last piece of her I could still touch. My wife picked it out 32 years ago at a small jewelry shop downtown. Nothing expensive, nothing fancy, just plain gold with our initials carved inside. She worked double shifts at the diner for 3 months to afford both rings, hers and mine. I wore mine every single day since our wedding. Through every construction job where my hands got cut and bruised. Through the nights I held her hand in the hospital when the cancer spread. Through the morning I had to sign papers saying we'd stop treatment. Through the funeral where I couldn't stop shaking. I never took it off, not once. Even when friends told me it was time. Even when people said I needed to move forward. That ring stayed on my finger because taking it off felt like erasing her. My son knew what that ring meant. He watched his mother put it on my finger at their wedding. He saw me twist it around my finger during her chemo appointments when I didn't know what else to do with my hands. He stood next to me at her grave while I stared at my ring and wondered how I was supposed to keep living. He knew. But 3 years after we buried her, he decided it was time for me to stop grieving on his schedule. He moved into my house 6 months after the funeral. Said he wanted to keep me company. Said he was worried about me living alone. I believed him. I gave him the guest room. I bought groceries for 2 instead of 1. I tried to be grateful my son cared enough to stay. But he didn't stay to help me. He stayed because his apartment lease ended and he didn't want to pay rent. He stayed because I cooked and cleaned and never asked him for a dollar. He stayed because his girlfriend liked having a house to herself when I worked late. Slowly, he started acting like my grief was an inconvenience to his comfort. If I mentioned my wife, he'd sigh and change the subject. If I got quiet on her birthday or our anniversary, he'd tell me I was being dramatic. If I left her picture on the mantel, he'd turn it face down and say I was making his girlfriend uncomfortable. I started keeping everything about her in my bedroom where he wouldn't see. Her jewelry box, her favorite books, the blanket she crocheted, our wedding album. I hid my own memories in my own house because my son made me feel ashamed for missing her. That morning, I put the ring on the bathroom counter before my shower. I always did. Soap made it slippery, and I was afraid of losing it down the drain. It sat there for 10 minutes while I washed away sawdust and sweat from the job site. I heard footsteps downstairs, cabinets opening and closing, the refrigerator door, normal sounds. Then I heard the trash can lid slam shut, hard, aggressive, the kind of slam that means something. I turned off the water immediately, stood there naked and dripping with this sick feeling spreading through my chest. I grabbed a towel and went downstairs still wet. My son was in the kitchen eating cereal straight from the box. His girlfriend sat at my table scrolling through her phone. The counter where I'd left my ring was empty. I looked at the trash can, looked at my son. He was chewing slowly and staring right at me, challenging me, daring me to ask. So I did. I asked where my ring was. He swallowed his cereal and smiled. Not a kind smile, a mean one. The kind of smile that enjoys causing pain. He pointed at the trash with his spoon and said, "Stop living in the past, old man." Said my wife was dead, and wearing that ring every day was pathetic. Said she'd be embarrassed if she could see me now. Walking around like a widow, refusing to move on. His girlfriend laughed, actually laughed, looked up from her phone just long enough to smirk at me standing there in a towel asking about my wedding ring in my own kitchen. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I walked to that trash can and opened it. Coffee grounds from that morning, banana peels, an empty pizza box from their dinner last night that they didn't bother taking out, wet napkins, something that smelled like rotting meat, and at the bottom, covered in garbage juice and stuck to a used tissue, was my ring. I reached in, dug through all of it. My son kept eating cereal and watching me like I was entertainment. His girlfriend went back to her phone. I pulled that ring out. It was sticky and disgusting and smelled like rot. I took it to the sink and washed it under hot water, scrubbed it with dish soap until the gold shined again. Then I dried it on my towel and put it back on my finger where it belonged. My son shook his head and muttered something about me being hopeless. I didn't respond. I went back upstairs and got dressed for work. But the entire time I was thinking about one thing: his car. That car sitting in my driveway wasn't really his. He thought it was. He drove it like he owned it, treated it like it was his property. But the title had my name on it, not his, mine. And he forgot that detail because I never reminded him. 3 years ago, when he needed a car for work, he had nothing. No credit, no savings. A resume full of jobs he quit after 2 months. No bank would finance him. He came to me desperate. Said he found a good job an hour away. Said he just needed reliable transportation. Said he'd pay me back. I co-signed the loan because that's what fathers do. We went to the dealership together. I put down $8,000 as a down payment. Money I'd saved for retirement. Money I was supposed to use to travel with my wife before she got sick. The monthly payments were $412. He promised he'd pay half. He paid 3 months. Then he lost that job. Found another one closer. Said he didn't need to pay any more because he was saving for his own place. I kept making the payments. $412 every month for 3 years. $14,832 total. Plus the $8,000 down payment. $22,832 I put into a car my son drove like it cost him something. He never thanked me, never offered gas money, never even washed it. He left fast food trash in the back seat, dents in the bumper from parking too close, scratches down the side from God knows what, my wife's car. That's what made it worse. It wasn't just any car. It was a blue sedan she'd picked out herself 5 years before she died. She loved that car, kept it spotless, waxed it every month, vacuumed the interior every week. She called it her freedom because she'd never owned something that nice before. When she got too sick to drive, she made me promise I'd take care of it, keep it running, not let it fall apart. After she died, I couldn't drive it. Too many memories. Her coffee cup still in the holder, her sunglasses in the console. The seat adjusted to her height. I left it parked in the garage for 6 months. Then my son asked if he could use it temporarily, just until he got back on his feet, just until he saved enough for his own. I should have said no, but I was tired and grieving and he was my son, so I said yes. Temporarily turned into a year turned into 3. He changed nothing about how he treated it. He stuffed trash in the back, he spilled drinks on her seats. He let his girlfriend smoke in it even though my wife hated the smell of cigarettes. He ripped the mirror off backing out too fast and never fixed it. He burned out the clutch driving like an idiot, and I paid $900 to replace it. That car she loved. That car she trusted me to protect. He destroyed it piece by piece while I watched, but I never transferred the title. The paperwork sat in my safe with both our names, co-signer and owner. He always meant to go to the DMV and finish the transfer. But he never had time. Always too busy. Always something more important. So legally, that car was still mine. 51% mine. And after he threw my wedding ring in the trash, after he told me my dead wife would be embarrassed of me, after his girlfriend laughed at me digging through garbage, I remembered that detail. I remembered my name was on the title. I remembered I had rights he didn't think about. And that night after he fell asleep drunk in my guest room, after his girlfriend left in an Uber, after the house went quiet, I made a phone call. I called Dennis, a guy I'd worked construction with for 15 years. He ran a used car dealership on the south side of town, bought cars cash, no questions, fast transactions. I'd helped him build his showroom 10 years ago and he still owed me favors. I called him at 6 in the morning, told him I had a car to sell, told him I needed it gone today. He asked if everything was okay. I said no. But I didn't explain. He said bring it by at 9. I told him I couldn't drive it there. Told him he'd have to come get it. He heard something in my voice, something that made him stop asking questions. He said he'd be there at 10 with a flatbed and cash. I thanked him. Then I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and staring at that ring on my finger. The one I'd pulled from the trash. The one my son thought was worthless. I twisted it around and waited for 10 o'clock. Dennis showed up early, 9:45. He knocked quiet so he wouldn't wake anyone. I had the title ready, signed, notarized from the bank the day before. I'd planned this the moment I washed that ring. Dennis looked at the car, checked the mileage, opened the hood, saw the trash in the back seat and the dents and scratches. He offered $16,000. I said I wanted 18. He looked at me, really looked at me, saw something in my face that made him nod. He pulled out a bank envelope, counted $18,000 in hundreds on my kitchen table. I signed the title over to him. He loaded the car onto his flatbed, didn't ask why, didn't ask where my son was, just took the car and drove away. By 10:30 the driveway was empty, just oil stains where the tires used to sit. I took that money upstairs, put it in my safe, locked it. Then I sat on my bed and waited for my son to wake up. He came downstairs at 2 in the afternoon. I heard his footsteps heavy and slow. Hungover. He did this twice a week. Drank until he couldn't stand. Passed out in my guest room. Woke up late and expected breakfast ready. I stopped cooking for him months ago, but he still checked the kitchen first. I was sitting at the table when he walked in. He didn't look at me. Just went straight to the refrigerator. Pulled out orange juice and drank from the carton. Put it back without closing it all the way. Grabbed his phone off the counter. Started scrolling. Then he looked out the window toward the driveway. His whole body stopped. He stared for 3 seconds. Then his head snapped back to look again. The phone dropped from his hand onto the floor. He ran to the front door, threw it open, stood there looking at the empty driveway like he could make the car appear by staring hard enough. He spun around. His face was red, eyes wide. He looked at me sitting calm at the kitchen table with my coffee. "Where's my car?" He didn't ask. He demanded. I took a sip of coffee. Didn't answer. "Where the fuck is my car?" Louder this time. His voice cracked. I set my cup down slow. Looked at him. "Your car." I said it quiet. Not a question. A correction. He stepped toward me. His fists were clenched. "Yeah, my car. Where is it? Did someone steal it? Did you move it? What did you do?" I stood up. Walked past him to the stairs. He followed me yelling, demanding answers. I went to my bedroom, opened the safe, pulled out the folder with all the paperwork, brought it back downstairs. He was pacing in the living room now, calling someone on his phone, probably his girlfriend, probably the police. I dropped the folder on the coffee table in front of him. He looked at it. Looked at me. "What is this?" I opened it. Pulled out the original loan agreement, the one from 3 years ago. My name highlighted in yellow. Co-signer. I slid it toward him. He picked it up. Read it. His face changed. Confused now. "Okay, so what? You co-signed. I know that. So where's the car?" I pulled out the payment history. Every month for 3 years. $14,832. All from my bank account. Not one payment from his. I circled the total in red marker. He looked at it. Looked at me. "I was going to pay you back." His voice was smaller now. I nodded. "You said that 3 years ago." I pulled out the title, the legal ownership document. My name on the front. Not transferred. Still active. He stared at it like it was a bomb. His hand started shaking. "You sold it." He whispered it first, then screamed it. "You sold my fucking car." I stayed calm. "I sold my car. The one with my name on the title. The one I paid $22,000 for. The one you treated like garbage." His face went from red to white. "Number. No, you can't do that. That's theft. I'm calling the cops." He pulled out his phone. Started dialing. I waited. Didn't stop him. He put it on speaker. A dispatcher answered. "My dad stole my car. I need to report a theft." The dispatcher asked for details. He gave the address, gave his name, started explaining. Then the dispatcher asked who owned the vehicle. He stopped talking. The dispatcher repeated the question. "Who is the registered owner?" He looked at the title in his hand. At my name printed clear. His mouth opened but nothing came out. "Sir," the dispatcher said, "who owns the vehicle?" "My dad." He said it so quiet I barely heard. "Then it's not stolen, sir. If he owns it, He has the right to sell it. My son's face crumpled. But I drive it. I've been driving it for 3 years. It's mine. The dispatcher sighed. Tired. Annoyed. Sir, unless your name is on the title, it's not your vehicle. If you have a civil dispute about ownership, you'll need to take that up in small claims court. But this isn't a criminal matter. I can't send officers for this. The line went dead. He stood there holding his phone, staring at nothing. Then he looked at me, and I saw it. The exact moment he realized he had no power here, no leverage, no control. How much? His voice shook. How much did you sell it for? $18,000. I said it clear. Let every word hit him. Cash. This morning. It's already gone. Where's the money? He stepped closer. Give me the money. That's my money. You owe me. I shook my head. I don't owe you anything. You owe me $22,000 in car payments, plus 3 years of rent you never paid, plus groceries and utilities and every other thing I covered while you lived here free. $18,000 doesn't even break even. His hands balled into fists. He took another step. You can't do this. You're my dad. You're supposed to help me. I stayed still. Didn't back up. I did help you. For 3 years I helped you. And yesterday you threw my wedding ring in the trash. You told me my dead wife would be embarrassed of me. You stood in my kitchen and laughed while I dug through garbage. So I helped myself. He lunged at me, grabbed my shirt, pulled his fist back. I didn't move, didn't flinch. I'd been hit before, by men bigger and stronger than him. I'd survived losing my wife. His anger was nothing compared to real pain. Go ahead, I said quiet. Hit me. Then explain to the police why you assaulted a 70-year-old man in his own home over a car that was never yours. His hand trembled in the air, his face twisted. Then he let go, shoved me back, stumbled away. He kicked the coffee table. It flipped over. Papers scattered. He screamed, just a wordless scream of rage. Then he ran upstairs. I heard drawers slamming, closet doors banging. 15 minutes later, he came back down with a backpack stuffed full. His face was wet. He'd been crying. He walked past me without looking, stopped at the door, turned back. I'll never forgive you for this. His voice was broken, small. You're dead to me. I nodded. That's your choice, but you're the one who threw away what mattered. I just sold what didn't. He stared at me, mouth open. No words came. He turned, walked out, slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. I watched through the window as he walked down the driveway, past the oil stain where his car used to be, down the street toward the bus stop. The same bus stop his mother used before I could afford to buy her that car. The car he destroyed. The car I sold. I stood there until he disappeared around the corner. Then I sat back down, finished my coffee, and felt nothing but relief. The house felt different after he left. Bigger, quieter. Not the sad kind of quiet I'd lived with after my wife died. This was clean quiet, peaceful, like something poisonous had been removed and I could finally breathe without it burning my lungs. I walked through the rooms that evening. The guest room where he'd slept looked like a disaster. Clothes on the floor, empty beer bottles on the dresser, the bed unmade for weeks, sheets that smelled like sweat and alcohol. I stripped everything, threw the sheets in the wash, picked up every piece of trash he'd left behind, found a drawer full of my tools he'd borrowed and never returned, found my wife's jewelry box shoved under the bed. Empty. He'd sold everything inside and I never knew. Her grandmother's pearls, her silver bracelet, the earrings I gave her on our 10th anniversary. All gone. Probably pawned for drinking money months ago. I didn't cry. I'd already cried everything out 3 years ago when she died. This was just confirmation of what I already knew. My son didn't care about her memory, didn't care about me, only cared about himself and what he could take. I cleaned that room for 4 hours, scrubbed the floors, wiped down the walls, opened the windows to air out the smell. By midnight, it looked like a guest room again, clean, empty, ready for someone who actually deserved to stay there. I locked the door when I was done, not to keep him out if he came back, but to remind myself that space wasn't his anymore. I took back my house that night, one room at a time. The next 2 weeks were quiet. No calls, no texts, nothing. I went to work, came home, made dinner for one, sat at the table instead of in front of the TV, started doing things I'd stopped doing when he moved in. I played music my wife loved, jazz and old blues she used to hum while cooking. I left her picture on the mantel where it belonged. I pulled out her recipe book and made her pasta dish I hadn't touched in 3 years because my son said it was too much effort. I ate it slow, tasted every bite, remembered her standing at the stove adding garlic and laughing when I tried to steal a taste before it was ready. The house started feeling like mine again, like ours, not his. Then the calls started. 2 weeks after he left, late at night, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. I'd see his name light up my phone. I'd watch it ring, count the rings, let it go to voicemail. He never left a message the first few times, just called and hung up when the beep came. Then he started leaving messages, short ones at first. Dad, call me back, then longer, angrier. You can't just ignore me, I'm your son. Then desperate. Dad, please, I need help. I don't have anywhere to go. I listened to every message once, then deleted them. He thought I was too broken to fight back, thought grief made me weak, made me easy to control. He was wrong. Week 3, the messages changed. Other people started calling, his girlfriend. She screamed into the phone about how I ruined his life, how I was a terrible father, how he was homeless because of me. I listened to the whole message, then blocked her number. His friends called, people I didn't know, people he'd told lies to. They called me selfish, called me cruel, said a real father wouldn't do this to his son. I didn't defend myself, didn't explain, just blocked each number as they called. The people who mattered knew the truth. The people who didn't matter didn't deserve my energy. My neighbors asked questions. Mrs. Patterson from next door saw him leave with the backpack, asked if everything was okay. I told her we had a disagreement, that he needed space. She nodded, but I could see the judgment in her eyes. She'd always liked my son. He mowed her lawn once 2 years ago and she thought he was a saint. She didn't know he only did it because I paid him $50. Didn't know he complained the entire time. Didn't know he was using me. I let her think what she wanted. I stopped caring about other people's opinions when my wife died. You learn fast that most people don't actually care about your truth. They just want a story they can repeat. Work became my escape. I picked up extra shifts, stayed late on projects, came home tired enough to fall asleep without thinking. My coworkers noticed I seemed lighter, less heavy. They didn't know why. Just said I looked better, more alive. I was. Without my son draining everything from me, I had energy again. I started fixing things around the house I'd ignored for months. The loose railing on the stairs, the dripping faucet in the bathroom, the crack in the driveway. Small things, but they mattered. Each repair was me taking back control, taking back my life, taking back my home from someone who never appreciated it. 1 month after he left, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. It was his girlfriend. Her voice was different this time. Not angry, scared. She said my son was sleeping in his car. Except he didn't have a car anymore, so he was sleeping on her couch. Said he was depressed. Wasn't eating, wasn't looking for work. Just sitting around talking about how I betrayed him. She wanted me to take him back. Said he needed his father. I listened to everything she said. Then I asked her one question. Did he tell you what he did? Silence. Did he tell you he threw my wedding ring in the trash and laughed about it? More silence. She hung up. She never called again. My son's version of the story was that I kicked him out over nothing. That I sold his car because I was bitter and angry about my wife dying. That I was taking my grief out on him. He told everyone he was the victim. That I was cruel, unreasonable, heartless. And maybe some people believed him. Maybe they heard his story and thought I was a monster. But the people who knew me, the people who saw how he treated me, the people who watched him drain me dry for 3 years, they knew better. They knew I didn't kick him out. He kicked himself out the moment he disrespected the one thing I had left of her. That ring represented 32 years of love, and he treated it like trash, so I treated his convenience the same way. I didn't touch that $18,000 for the first month. It sat in my safe like a test, like I was waiting to see if I'd feel guilty enough to give it back. but guilt never came. Only relief. Every morning I'd open the safe to grab my work wallet and I'd see that envelope, thick with hundreds. Money that represented 3 years of his disrespect. 3 years of payments I made while he bought nothing but excuses. I'd close the safe and go to work feeling lighter. That money wasn't his. It never was. It was mine. Earned by my labor, spent on his laziness. And now it was back where it belonged. The roof started leaking in October. Right above the kitchen, water stains spread across the ceiling like bruises. I'd been ignoring it for 2 years because I couldn't afford to fix it. Every dollar I made went to car payments and feeding an extra mouth that never said thank you. My son had promised to patch it himself. Said he'd get up there with some tar and shingles. Make it right. That was 18 months ago. The leak got worse. I put buckets down when it rained, moved them around as new spots opened up. The ceiling sagged, started to rot. I knew I'd have to fix it eventually, but eventually felt impossible when I was broke. Now I had $18,000. I called a roofer I'd worked with years ago. He came out the next day, climbed up with his ladder and inspected the damage, came back down shaking his head, said the whole thing needed replacing, not just a patch. The wood underneath was rotted through. Water had been getting in so long it compromised the structure. Another year, and the ceiling would collapse. He quoted me $8,000. I didn't negotiate, didn't shop around, just told him to start Monday. He looked surprised, asked if I needed to think about it. Check with my bank. I said no, I have cash. His eyebrows went up, but he didn't ask questions, just said he'd be here at 7 in the morning. The roofers took 4 days. I watched them tear off the old shingles, rip out rotted wood, replace beams, lay down new tar paper and shingles the color my wife always wanted, dark gray. She said it would look clean, modern. But we never had the money when she was alive. Always something more urgent, always something more important. Now I was putting that roof on without her here to see it. But I knew she'd approve. Knew she'd be glad I finally fixed something that needed fixing. The house looked better when they finished. Newer, cared for, like someone actually loved it again. I paid them in cash. $4,000 up front. $4,000 when they finished. The crew boss counted the bills twice. Said most people finance this kind of work. I told him I didn't believe in debt anymore. He laughed. Said that was smart. Asked if I needed any other work done. I told him maybe the gutters next spring. He gave me his card. Said to call anytime. After they left, I stood in the yard and looked at my house. My roof. Paid for with money my son thought was his. The irony tasted sweet. $10,000 left. I put $5,000 back in the safe for emergencies. Real emergencies. Not my son's emergencies. Not someone else's crisis that became my responsibility. The other $5,000 I used for things I'd been denying myself for years. I bought a new mattress. The one I'd been sleeping on was 15 years old, springs poking through, sagging in the middle. My back hurt every morning, but I never complained, never bought a new one because that money always went somewhere else. Now I went to the store and bought the best one they had. Memory foam, adjustable base, $2,000. The salesman tried to sell me financing, 0% interest for 12 months. I pulled out cash. His whole attitude changed, treated me like royalty after that. I bought new clothes. Not many. Just enough to replace the work pants with holes in the knees and shirts with paint stains that never came out. I went to a real barber instead of cutting my own hair in the bathroom mirror. Got a shave, a hot towel. Sat in that chair for 45 minutes while someone else took care of me for once. Cost $60 with tip. My son would have called that wasteful, stupid, unnecessary. But I felt human again. Like I mattered. Like I was worth more than leftovers and hand-me-downs and whatever scraps were left after everyone else took what they wanted. I fixed the fence in the backyard. The one that had been falling over since the storm 3 years ago. Bought the wood and hardware. Spent 2 weekends digging post holes and setting new rails. My back ached, my hands blistered, but it felt good. Productive. I was building something instead of watching everything fall apart. The fence stood straight when I finished, strong. Something I could be proud of. Something that would last. I stood back and looked at it the way I used to look at job sites after completing them. Satisfaction. Purpose. I'd forgotten what that felt like. I took myself out to dinner, not fast food, not a chain restaurant, a real place downtown my wife always wanted to try. White tablecloths, candles, a menu without pictures. I sat alone at a table for two, ordered the steak she would have ordered, a glass of red wine, dessert. The waiter was attentive, kind, didn't treat me like a sad old man eating alone, just brought my food and refilled my water and let me exist. The steak was perfect, cooked the way she liked it. Medium rare, I ate slow, tasted everything, didn't rush. When the bill came, it was $83. I left a $20 tip. Walked out of that restaurant feeling full for the first time in years. Not just my stomach, my chest, my soul, whatever part of me had been empty and aching. That money fed it. My son called that night. Late. I saw his name on my phone. Let it ring. He left a voicemail. I listened the next morning over coffee. His voice sounded tired. Broken. Dad, I know you're mad. I know I messed up. But I need help. I don't have anywhere to go. I'm staying with people who don't want me here. I need money. Just enough to get back on my feet. Just a loan. I'll pay you back, I promise. The message ended. I deleted it. Went back to my coffee. Looked around my house with the new roof and fixed fence and clean rooms. I'd spent 3 years giving him everything. Money. Space. Patience. Forgiveness. He took it all and threw my wedding ring in the trash. Now he wanted more. But the bank was closed, and it wasn't opening again. He came back on a Tuesday morning. I was drinking coffee on the porch when I saw him walking up the street. No car, no ride, just him with that same backpack looking smaller than before. Thinner. His clothes hung loose. His face had a beard he didn't have before. Patchy. Unkempt. He walked slow like he was deciding with each step whether to keep going or turn around. I stayed in my chair, sipped my coffee, watched him come closer. He stopped at the end of the driveway, looked at the house, looked at me. Neither of us spoke for a full minute. Can I come in? His voice was quiet, rough. I shook my head. Number. He flinched like I'd hit him. Dad, please. I just want to talk. You can talk from there. He shifted the backpack on his shoulder, looked down at his feet. I'm sorry. About the ring. About everything. I was angry. I was wrong. I need your help. I set my coffee cup down on the small table next to my chair. You needed my help for 3 years. I gave it. You threw it back in my face. That's not fair. He stepped closer. His voice got louder. I made one mistake. One. And you destroyed my entire life over it. One mistake. I stood up. My chair scraped against the porch. You threw my wedding ring in the trash. You told me my dead wife would be embarrassed of me. You laughed while I dug through garbage to find it. You sold her jewelry. You trashed her car. You lived in my house for 3 years without paying a single dollar. You disrespected everything I ever gave you. That's not one mistake. That's a pattern. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I was grieving too. She was my mom. I lost her too. You don't get to act like you're the only one who was hurt. You're right. I said it calm. You lost her too. But you didn't honor her. You erased her. You treated her memory like it was inconvenient. You told me to move on while you sold her belongings for beer money. Don't talk to me about grief when you used yours as an excuse to take everything. His face went red. His hands clenched. You sold my car. You kicked me out. You left me with nothing. I didn't leave you with nothing. You left yourself with nothing. The car was mine. The house is mine. Everything you thought you had was never yours. You just acted like it was because I didn't stop you. Until you went too far. He stood there breathing hard, his eyes wet. What do you want from me? An apology. Money. What? I want nothing from you. I said it clear, final. I want you to leave my property and not come back. You're my father. His voice cracked. You can't just give up on me. I gave you 3 years. I gave you money and space and patience. I gave you chance after chance to show respect. You chose to spit on all of it. So yes, I can give up on you. Because you gave up on me first. He stared at me, tears running down his face now. I stood firm. Didn't move, didn't soften. After everything I've done, after showing up here trying to apologize, you're really going to turn me away. I am. He wiped his face with his sleeve. You're a cold man. Maybe. But I'm not a doormat anymore. He stood there 5 more seconds, then turned, walked back down the driveway. I watched until he disappeared around the corner. Then I sat back down, picked up my coffee. It was cold, but I drank it anyway. He tried everything after that. Phone calls every day, sometimes 3 times a day, sometimes at 2 in the morning. I never answered. Just watched his name light up the screen. Watched it ring until it stopped. The voicemails piled up, 15, 20, 30. I didn't listen to most of them, but a few times late at night when I couldn't sleep I'd play one. Just to see if anything changed. It never did. Same script, different level of desperation. I'm sorry, I need help. I have nowhere to go. You're my only family. Please, Dad, please. Then anger would creep in. You're selfish. You're cruel. What kind of father does this? I'd delete them halfway through and go back to bed. Text messages came next. Long paragraphs at first, explaining his side, justifying his actions, blaming his grief, blaming his age, blaming me for enabling him and then pulling the rug out. I read the first few, then stopped opening them. Just let them sit unread. The notification number climbed. 43 unread messages, 50, 62. I didn't care what they said anymore. Then the messages got shorter, simpler. Just one word. Please. Then another day. Dad. Then nothing for a week. I thought maybe he'd finally given up. Then a text came through at 4 in the morning. I hate you. I stared at those 3 words for a long time, felt nothing, deleted it, went back to sleep. His girlfriend tried again. Different approach this time. She called from a new number so I'd answer. I picked up thinking it was work. Her voice came through fake sweet, trying to sound reasonable. Mr. Porter, I know things are hard between you and your son, but he really needs you right now. He's not doing well. He's staying on my couch, and I can't keep supporting him. He needs his father. I let her finish. Then asked her a question. Did he tell you he sold his mother's jewelry? Silence. Did he tell you he treated her car like a dumpster? More silence. Did he tell you exactly what he said to me before I sold that car? She hung up. I blocked the number. People I barely knew started reaching out. Distant cousins. Old friends of my wife who hadn't called since the funeral. Suddenly concerned. Suddenly involved. They'd heard my son was struggling. Heard he needed help. Heard I'd turned my back on him. They wanted to understand my side, but really they wanted to lecture me. Tell me family is family. Tell me forgiveness is important. Tell me I'd regret this someday. I listened polite for about 30 seconds. Then I'd say, I appreciate your concern, but this isn't your business. Most of them got offended. Said they were just trying to help. I'd thank them and hang up. Block the number if they called again. My son showed up at my work site once. I was on a roof framing when I saw him in the parking lot below, just standing there watching. My foreman noticed, asked if I knew that guy. I said yes. He asked if there was a problem. I said there might be. The foreman walked down, had a conversation I couldn't hear. My son pointed up at me. The foreman shook his head, pointed toward the street. My son argued. The foreman pulled out his phone. Probably threatened to call police. My son left, walked away, looking back over his shoulder. The foreman came back up. Told me if that guy shows up again, he's calling cops immediately. I thanked him. We didn't talk about it again. The final attempt came 2 months after I sold the car. A letter in my mailbox, handwritten, 4 pages front and back. I almost threw it away without reading, but something made me open it. His handwriting was messy. Desperate. The letter started with apologies, then excuses, then blame, then begging, then threats, then back to apologies. A cycle that went nowhere. The last paragraph said if I didn't help him, he didn't know what he'd do, that he had nothing left, that I'd taken everything from him. I read it twice, then I put it in the fireplace, lit a match, watched it burn, The paper curled black. The words disappeared into smoke. I felt nothing watching it turn to ash. 6 months passed, then a year. The calls stopped. The messages stopped. The surprise visits ended. My son disappeared from my life completely, and I didn't go looking. People asked about him sometimes. Neighbors who remembered him. Co-workers who knew I had a son. They'd ask how he was doing, where he ended up, if we'd reconciled. I'd give short answers. He's figuring things out. We're not in contact. Then I'd change the subject. Most people got the hint. The ones who didn't got silence until they felt uncomfortable enough to stop asking. I used the rest of that money on myself. Selfish things, unnecessary things, things I'd never bought because there was always someone else who needed it more. I bought a new television, 65 inches, the kind my son always wanted but I said was too expensive. I mounted it in the living room and watched old westerns my wife used to love. I bought good coffee, the expensive kind from the shop downtown, $8 a bag instead of $4. I made a cup every morning and drank it slow on the porch. I bought tools I didn't need but wanted. A new drill, a better saw. I hung them in the garage organized and clean. I started eating better. Not just cheap fast food or frozen dinners. Real meals. I went to the grocery store and bought fresh vegetables, good meat. I cooked recipes my wife had written in her notebook. Her handwriting faded but still readable. I made her pot roast, her chicken soup, her chocolate cake that took 3 hours and used real butter. I ate at the table with her picture across from me. Talked to her sometimes while I ate. Told her about my day, about the roof that finally stopped leaking, about the fence that stood straight, about the son who chose his pride over his family. She didn't answer, but I felt her there anyway. Felt her approval in the quiet. I started going to the cemetery again. I'd stopped after my son moved in. He made me feel guilty for going. Said I was dwelling. Said it wasn't healthy. So I stopped visiting her grave to keep peace in my own house. Now I went every Sunday like I used to. Brought flowers. Sat on the ground next to her stone. Read the newspaper out loud. Told her everything I couldn't tell anyone else. I told her about the ring, about the trash, about selling the car, about our son who forgot how to be decent. I told her I was sorry. Sorry I let him disrespect her memory. Sorry I didn't stand up sooner. Sorry I was weak when I should have been strong. The stone didn't respond, but the wind did. Blew soft through the oak tree above her. I took that as forgiveness. My health improved. I'd been tired for years. Exhausted in a way sleep didn't fix. Doctors said it was age, stress, grief. But after my son left, the exhaustion lifted. I woke up easier, had more energy during the day, stopped getting headaches every afternoon. My co-workers noticed, said I looked younger, asked what I was doing different. I told them I cut out something toxic. They assumed I meant alcohol or sugar. I didn't correct them, didn't explain that the toxic thing was my own son draining me dry every single day. I made new friends, joined a woodworking class at the community center on Thursday nights, met other men my age who'd retired or semi-retired. We built birdhouses and small furniture, talked about sports and weather and nothing important. It was easy, simple. No one asked for money. No one guilt-tripped me. No one took and took until there was nothing left. We just existed together doing something we enjoyed. I forgot what that felt like. Having people around who didn't want something from me, who just wanted company. I built a bench for my front porch, sanded it smooth, stained it dark, put it out, and sat there in the evenings watching the sun go down. My son never would have helped me build that bench, would have complained it was too much work, would have sat inside on his phone while I did everything. Now I built it alone, and it was better that way. I found out through Facebook. I didn't use it much. Opened it maybe once a month to look at pictures from people I used to work with. But one night I was scrolling and saw a mutual friend had tagged my son in a post. Congratulations on the new job. Proud of you for turning things around. I clicked on his profile. It was public, no privacy settings. I could see everything. His new job was at a warehouse 2 states away. Loading trucks, night shift. The pay couldn't have been good, but it was something. His profile picture showed him smiling, thinner than before, older looking, but clean, sober maybe. I scrolled through his recent posts, motivational quotes about starting over, about cutting out toxic people, about choosing yourself. The irony wasn't lost on me. One post from 3 weeks ago said sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who were supposed to protect you. It had 64 likes. Comments from people I didn't know saying stay strong and you deserve better. I read through them, saw his girlfriend had commented, "You're better off without him," referring to me, making me the villain in a story where I was the one who got used. I closed the app, didn't comment, didn't react, let him have his narrative, let him tell people whatever he needed to tell them. I knew the truth, that was enough. 2 months later I ran into his old boss, the one from the job he quit 3 years ago. We were at the hardware store. He recognized me, asked how I was doing, asked about my son. I said we weren't in contact anymore. He nodded slow, said that was probably for the best. Then he told me something I didn't know. Said my son had stolen from the company, small amounts at first, $20 from the register, $50 from petty cash, then bigger, tools, equipment. They caught him on camera but didn't press charges. Just fired him and told him not to come back. My son never told me that. Never mentioned why he really lost that job. Just said they were cutting staff. I'd believed him, given him money to get by until he found something new. I thanked the old boss for telling me. He said he should have told me back then. But he didn't want to cause family problems. I said it wouldn't have mattered. I wouldn't have believed it anyway. I heard he got evicted from wherever he'd been staying. Heard it from a neighbor who knew his girlfriend's sister. Third-hand information, but it lined up with his Facebook posts about new beginnings and fresh starts. Code for I messed up again and had to leave. Part of me wondered if he was okay. If he had a place to sleep. If he was eating. That part was small. Quiet. The loud part remembered the ring in the trash. Remembered 3 years of disrespect. Remembered him lunging at me with his fist raised. That part felt nothing. Someone told me he got arrested, drunk and disorderly, spent a night in jail, got out on his own recognizance. No one called me. No one asked me to bail him out. Either he didn't list me as emergency contact or he knew I wouldn't answer. Probably both. I looked up the arrest record online, saw his mugshot. He looked hollow, defeated, eyes empty. I stared at that photo for a long time. Tried to find the little boy who used to bring me drawings from school. The teenager who asked me to teach him to drive. I couldn't find him in that face. Whoever that person was in the mugshot, he wasn't my son anymore. Maybe he never had been. Maybe I just loved the idea of who he could have been, instead of accepting who he actually was. I didn't reach out. Didn't send money for a lawyer. Didn't write a letter. I closed the webpage and went back to my life. The one I'd built without him. The one that felt lighter. Easier. Mine. 3 years have passed since I sold that car. 3 years since he walked out of my house with a backpack and a curse. People ask if I regret it, if I lie awake at night wishing I'd handled things different. The answer is no. Not once. Not even a little. I sleep better now than I have in a decade. I wake up without dread in my chest, without wondering what he'll take from me today, without walking on eggshells in my own home. The peace I feel isn't something I regret. It's something I earned. My son is 41 now. I'm 73. We live 200 miles apart, but it might as well be 2,000. I see his life in pieces through social media when I'm bored enough to look. He's still working warehouse jobs, still moving from place to place, still blaming other people for his problems. His posts are always about how the world is against him, how people don't appreciate him, how he's been wronged by everyone who ever tried to help. I recognize that pattern now, the victim mentality, the refusal to take responsibility. I lived with it for 3 years and didn't see it clearly until he was gone. Distance gives clarity that proximity never could. He got married last year. I found out from a cousin who saw the pictures online. A small courthouse wedding. No family invited. Just him and her and 2 witnesses they probably met that morning. Part of me wondered if he didn't invite me, or if he just knew I wouldn't come. Either way, the result was the same. I wasn't there. Didn't send a card. Didn't send money. Didn't acknowledge it at all. Some people would call that cold. Unforgiving. Maybe it is. But forgiveness isn't something you're owed just because time passed. It's something you earn by changing, by showing remorse, by making amends. He's done none of that, so I owe him nothing. I think about my wife sometimes and wonder what she'd say about all this. If she'd be disappointed in me for cutting off our son. If she'd tell me to forgive him and let him back in. But then I remember how she was when she was alive. Strong. Fair. She didn't tolerate disrespect from anyone, not from strangers, not from friends, not from family. She would have thrown him out herself the moment he disrespected her memory. Maybe sooner. She would have seen what he was becoming long before I did. Would have put a stop to it before it got this bad. I failed her by letting him stay as long as I did. But I honored her by finally making him leave. The ring is still on my finger. I twist it sometimes without thinking. A habit that brings comfort. It's scratched now. Worn. The gold isn't as bright as it used to be. But it survived. Survived the trash. Survived the disrespect. Survived everything my son tried to destroy. Just like I did. People see it and ask about my wife. I tell them she's been gone 6 years now. They say they're sorry. I say thank you. Then I tell them about the life we built. The 32 years we had. The love that didn't end when she died. I don't mention our son. He's not part of that story anymore. He removed himself the day he threw this ring away. My son thought throwing away my wedding ring would break me. Thought I was too weak and too broken to fight back. He thought grief made me a target he could use forever. He was wrong. I sold his car that night and took back my dignity. He never found me again because I made sure he couldn't. Some people call that cruel. I call it survival. He threw away what mattered most. I just returned the favor. And I'd do it again without hesitation.